Hi, and thanks for everybody who is logging in. I'm just going to be quiet for a moment as folks join. Thank you. Hi, everyone. We'll get started in just a moment. Thank you so much for joining. All right, we're going to go ahead and get started. Thanks so much to everybody who is logged in. My name is Janette Roush. I am the SVP of Innovation and Chief AI Officer for Brand USA. And today I am going to share with you an introduction to AI agents. So please, as usual, use the chat or use the Q&A if there's a question you'd like to ask me. I may not notice it while I am delivering the presentation, but if I'm not able to keep an eye on the chat, I'm going to come back around to it at the end of the presentation where there will be time for a Q&A. And on the screen right now, that QR code will allow you to download a link to this presentation. It's delivered through Beautiful.ai is the presentation tool that I use, and it creates web links for all of these presentations. So you can use the QR code to access that. And as a quick reminder, I want to just let you know once again what my AI agenda is at Brand USA. So first of all, the image, I love this website. This is pika.art. So pika.art. It has a lot of free options available for attention-getting graphics like this. And I share it because it's really the only funny trick that you're going to see in this entire presentation. I'm hoping everything else will be very practical and useful for you. And then in my role at Brand USA, I'm here to ensure there's operational excellence at the company. So I am working to, help our staff take advantage of the benefits of generative AI. I'm then taking what we are learning internally and using that for industry empowerment. So that's what this webinar is right now. It's sharing what we are learning for the benefit of the U.S. tourism industry. And then finally, the third component of my agenda is traveler experience enhancement. So what are we doing with AI tools to make the United States more discoverable and more bookable by international visitors and meeting planners? And let's go right to the meat of what we're talking about today. So AI agents. What is an AI agent? And this is something that gets really convoluted because you have product people, the people who are building these tools for AI labs, thinking of agents as one thing. You have the marketers for those companies, perhaps throwing the title of agent on every single thing that they touch. Agents are going to mean something different for us as the tourism professionals who are using them. But what it all comes down to is that this is software that can understand a goal and then figure out ways of achieving that goal. And I've spent a lot of time figuring out how to take all of the different pieces of software that are on the market right now that call themselves either an agent or claim to be connected to agentic AI, but they're very different. And so I initially, when I started talking about AI agents a couple of months ago, I was trying to describe them on a spectrum where you have tools that are very simple and then moving across the spectrum until they become more complex. And I am moving away from that descriptor for this particular webinar because honestly, I think it's a little confusing. And after having a long conversation with both Claude and with ChatGPT, trying to come up with different ways to group agents, This is what I have finally landed on. Thinking of agents either as something that is going to operate your computer for you, will do research for you, will build something for you, or will automate something for you. And so I'm going to walk through each of those four buckets and the types of tools that live in these categories and things that we as tourism professionals can do with each of these agents. And then look at, very briefly at the end, what this could mean for the future of work. So starting with the operator bucket. What the tools in this bucket have in common is that it is like taking your mouse and handing it to the agent and saying, I'm done. You go give it a shot. And this is, as are all of these categories, something that is changing rapidly. So only about a week ago, ChatGPT updated the agent that they have in their ecosystem. So previously, I want to say back in January, OpenAI released something they called ChatGPT Operator. And you could watch ChatGPT open up a browser, take over a mouse, and then complete a task at your behest. But it was pretty slow and honestly not much better than you doing it yourself. So now ChatGPT or OpenAI has updated this. And this is just screenshots from me using this tool for my own agentic process or research project. So here I chose Kansas City for this example because I'm from Kansas City. So I was hoping something might sound familiar and I could root out any hallucinations as they popped up. So here I'm asking it to identify 50 businesses that could be a member of Visit Kansas City, but isn't, and how they could benefit from DMO membership, find contact information, any trends in these sectors, and please don't give me businesses that wouldn't work for membership. It came back and asked for a little bit of clarification. So these agentic models, typically, they don't want to go out and do a lot of work without confirming that this is the work you're looking for. And then this example, you will see here at the top, it worked for 59 minutes to look at a variety of different websites. It pulled a little bit of detail about about Kansas City, Missouri's, tourism economy. And then it gave me this list of 50 businesses, which like some of them were restaurants, and I think restaurants would be easy, low-hanging fruit for this tool to look at. But it also, found a couple of escape rooms. Somewhat upsettingly, it hallucinated some options. So at the end of the list, you could tell that it was really working hard to be unique. And so one of the examples was an organization that offers sewing classes and has sewing clubs, which I thought that was a really interesting idea for a DMO to bring into their membership, right? Real company. But there was another company that was, it was a venue that was providing lawn games, I believe, like an indoor lawn game experience. Completely fabricated. Gave it a street address, gave it a name, completely does not exist. So it's a good note to make that these systems, these agentic systems are still not perfect. They still have many of the issues that we see in using, just standard AI chatbots. But it's in terms of me looking through a list of 50 things and being able to quickly say, okay, that doesn't exist and that doesn't exist. It would be much faster to remove the hallucinations than to generate, the list of 50 ideas to begin with. And then if I had wanted to make this process even more agentic and let the system do the next step, I think the next step would probably be reaching out to those businesses with a pitch to become a member of Visit Kansas City. And so I asked it, for ideas of what could that pitch email look like. And then in the future, what these systems would be able to do is then take that pitch email, go into your email platform, and actually send out the email to the prospective business. So that's the type of work that agentic AI is going to be able to help us with in the future. So this is now a second example of an operator type agent. This is from a website called Manus. It's manus.im. And I do not recommend that you use this for very detailed work projects because it is a Chinese company. And so one of the things I like to remind people is that if something's free, we are the product. And I have a free account for manus.im. So me and all of the information I feed into this is the product, right? And it's also, I haven't looked at the terms of service, but as a Chinese company, just be careful when you are, doing anything with confidential or proprietary work information and putting it into these websites, that you understand what is happening with it after you are done using it. And I would think for Manus, I'd want to be careful about that. So in this example, I was able to say, go to this website, look at the brand, how the brand appears on the website, and then create social media icons specifically around AI that I would be able to use in PowerPoint presentations. And so Manus, again, it restates what it sees the request being. It spells out the steps. In Manus, you are able to jump in and correct it in real time, rather than it giving you a plan of attack, and then you review the plan of attack and then give it the go-ahead. So it will shift in the middle of the session if you interrupt it to give it additional information. But here, it again, just like the ChatGPT version, it opens up a little monitor, a little browser, so you can watch it browsing the internet. It went to thebrandusa.com, clicked through a few pages to see, what our color structure looked like, and then thought about what the icons should be in order to create them here. And then these are individual icons that I have downloaded from manus.im and uploaded to my presentation. So that is just one small example of the type of thing that you could do with Manus. And I felt okay doing this, with Brand USA because the website itself, like, that's public, right? Like, there's nothing secret or proprietary about colors that we use. And then this is the third example in the operator series. So this will work differently than the first two examples, but it is in this category because it is AI essentially taking over your mouse or taking over your keyboard to do something for you. So browse.ai is a tool that you can use to scrape websites. And I can think of lots of not incredibly legitimate reasons why you would want to scrape a website. I will say, as an example, when I used to work on Broadway, we wanted to keep an eye on how people were, like, how ticket scalpers were pricing tickets for the shows that we represented. So I worked on Harry Potter and the Cursed Child on Broadway and oversaw, all of its ticketing. So we would scrape various scalper websites to see which seats they had access to and what prices were they selling them for, so that we could use that information to inform our own pricing strategy. So a tool like browse.ai can help you do that. Whether it's extracting structured data, and I'll show you how that works, or monitoring website changes. So the way that this particular site works, you sign up for an account. And then in this example, let's say I wanted to go to the Kansas City Chamber of Commerce website and just keep an eye on if they get any new businesses signing on that could possibly, become a member of the DMO. So here I am giving it the URL that I want it to scrape. And then it opens up an interactive screen where you can actually, you tell it what data you want to extract. And what we want to do is to capture the text of all of the restaurant members, let's say, of the Kansas City Chamber of Commerce. So you tell it capture text. And then because it's AI, it can read the website and understand what the website is. It knows the website is a list of 23 restaurants. And it knows the list it's going across and down. It's a grid, right? So when you tell it, yes, you've correctly determined what the list items are, it will then pull everything out of that list and then put it into columns for you. And then, here I've deleted out a couple of the columns, so I didn't need to have, the name of the business twice. I didn't need to have the text for send email or visit website. But I did want to have, the website address for each of those restaurants. And then there's a way in this system, again, because it's AI, so it understands how the website is set up. If it needed to look at multiple pages in order to extract results, you can tell it where the next page tab button is. And you can, so down here, you would set that up and it would open up the page again, and you actually click on the next page tab. So those are the examples of operator agents. Now I'm going to move on to researcher agents. And so these are tools that go deep into online resources to gather, analyze, and synthesize complex information so that you can have clear insights as a result of that. And I think probably the best example I know of this is currently the version that is in ChatGPT. So all of the major models have some version of deep research. If you have a paid version of ChatGPT, you'll be able to just click on the telescope in order to activate deep research. There is a similar widget inside of Google Gemini that allows you to do deep research. Claude, they just call theirs research, but it's situated in the same area on the Omnibar. So for this example, I wanted to do a competitive analysis of like 30 national tourism organizations and what is their positioning for business events globally, so that I could start to understand what is the positioning of the United States currently in that market and what are we going to be competing against, right, for hosting meetings in the United States. So I outlined, I want this comprehensive competitive analysis. I want to understand their unique selling proposition, their brand promise, taglines, if they have one that is specific for business events, their top international markets. And then over here, you can see the very beginnings of, or one little part of the response that I got back from ChatGPT. So I gave it this assignment. It came back and asked clarifying questions. And then I answered those questions. It went away and thought for 30 minutes. And then as one example, it came back and said, oh, for tourism, for business events Australia, this is their unique selling proposition to this market, right? Here's the brand promise, taglines, what budgets looked like for recent events. Do they offer any incentives for the meeting planners? So a lot of information. The final report here, because I'd asked it to look at so many markets, was very long. But in terms of me being able to sit down and digest what does this entire landscape look like, it was really interesting and very useful. And you can take that report and you can then ask ChatGPT to give you an executive summary of it so that you can get to, the crisp insights a little bit more quickly. You can work with it like it's a McKinsey consultant. So the information that you give to it in this initial prompt, you want to try for these deep research tools and give everything that you need in one prompt, knowing that you will probably have one chance to add in any final details. But for this, having this really complete prompt is going to be your best guide. And then this is just a quick snapshot of what the same functionality looks like for Google's Gemini. All right, so the next category is going to be the builder. So these are AI enhanced tools that will take a text description from you and turn it into a fully functioning digital product without needing to be an expert or a programmer. So a great example of one of these tools, and I talked about this in last month's tooltip uh, playground webinar. This is Lovable. So Lovable over here on the left, I'm giving it a prompt for the type of website that I'm looking for. And then over here on the right, that's all of the code for actually building that website. So one way that I have used this recently was ahead of IPW. I was delivering sessions in our booth for the attendees, to provide some education on AI. And I wanted people to be able to see what different workshops I was offering and to be able to register for a seat at one of them. So this is what the final product looked like. And I have a screen share so you can see how it actually works. So what was great about this is I just went to Lovable and said, I need a website that will take registrations for, these sessions. And I gave it a list of sessions. And it built all of this really based off of one prompt. Like it took me probably 2 hours to do the entire thing, but most of that was changing how this registration piece worked, or adding in this header, or adding this wait list functionality. So most of it was just spent tweaking different little aspects of it. But overall, for it just to create an interactive website that allowed somebody to enter their name and email address and sign up for a session and have a back end where I was able to log into a database and see everybody who had registered for each session. Like, I cannot believe how easy this was. And I used the free version of Lovable. So I am sure with the paid version, you're going to see even more bells and whistles. And what I like about this is it takes something that used to be, gate kept. Like this used to be something that you had to be a developer in order to be able to build. And now it's something that is accessible to a much wider range of people. I just think that's really cool. Another tool that you can use that is a builder tool for creating these mini apps is Claude Artifacts. So Claude is made by a company called Anthropic, and it's a chatbot that is a competitor to ChatGPT or Google Gemini. At Brand USA, we have subscriptions for both ChatGPT and for Claude because Claude it works a little differently. I can get better ideas sometimes out of it than I do out of ChatGPT. And it has this interactive artifacts creator. So you can see down here, this is the prompt that I gave to Claude, that I wanted a Pomodoro timer that has responsive design. It has a work mode and a break mode. And I wanted one small feature that could induce delight, which is when it runs out of time, you see the little pop of confetti, which I was like, I mean, better than nothing, I guess. It also had a little noise it makes if I had the sound on with this, which I don't right now. So you can use Claude artifacts. Like honestly, you could upload results from a recent ad campaign that you did and ask, for an interactive dashboard of those results that would reveal insights that you can't see otherwise. You could give that as a prompt to Claude, and it would open up a separate screen and create an artifact for you that I'm pretty confident, like it blows me away what it is able to do. It uses a programming language called React to create all of these interactive elements. And there are lots of examples online. I would say Ethan Mollick, if you follow him on LinkedIn or subscribe to his newsletter, he shares on LinkedIn a lot of small artifacts that he makes with Claude. He does a lot of world building games. So you can get much more complicated than a simple Pomodoro timer when you're using Claude artifacts. And then the final group of these tools is the automator. So these are AI agents that connect different apps and workflows together uh, so that you are eliminating repetitive manual steps. So one example of this is a tool called N8N. So I'm cheating here because I haven't actually used this tool. And I will say everything in the universe of agentic AI, I am learning right along with everybody else. So this is new to the entire world. And if it feels new to you, don't let that intimidate you. So what these tools do is imbue your workflow with AI, which means you have to understand what your workflow looks like. So for a tool like N8N, it knows like this is showing the workflow for automating having a new hire come on board. So it says here, great. So once you submit a form for create a new user, that form then goes and it shows you here, like you literally in this tool work with this type of screen in order to say, okay, this is when I want the tool to call on an AI tool, call on an LLM with a prompt. And then this is what I want you to do with the result from that. So here we get this user form. We ask questions like, is this person a manager? Yes, they go through one workflow. No, they go to a different workflow. So this exists already today prior to AI. Robotic process automation tools like Zapier allow you to connect different activities together and automate those activities. What's different with the AI piece, and that's why I like this visual from N8N, is you see where in the middle of the workflow, you say, oh, actually, there's an opportunity here for rather than somebody saying, yes, they're a manager, the AI agent can read the form and understand if that person is a manager or not based on their duties, and then put them along the correct workflow as a new employee. Now, this is an agentic tool that I do like a lot. This is called agent.ai, and it was created by one of the co-founders of HubSpot. I think I just saw that they have 2 million users over the weekend. So they are growing quickly. And I think there's a lot of opportunities with a tool like this. Like if you were to explore it, it's easy to use and you would be one of the first people in the world building in this platform. So agent.ai, free account. This is an example of an AI agent that I have created. So this is designed to, you give it a LinkedIn profile, LinkedIn URL. So in this example, it is for a business event planner. And this agent will analyze that LinkedIn profile to deliver sales intelligence for DMOs. So, let us know key selling points, decision-making patterns, personalized approaches that will align the destination strengths with the planner's specific needs. So this is what it looks like if you are a user of the agent. And then on the back end, in order to create it, I've just clicked a button that says Build New Agent. And these are the 4 different areas where you are going to tell agent.ai how your agent will work. So you start just, what's the name of the agent? What's the description? You saw that on the previous screen. It's just, that's what's appearing to the public. The rest of this, honestly, if this is an agent just for you, none of it really matters because this is how it shows externally if you were to share it. And then this is over here on actions. This is where you actually build the agent. And so again, all of these things work as a workflow. And so when I talk about understanding what our workflows are, this is why it's important, because as agentic AI becomes easier for all of us to access, we'll understand what steps in our processes can be replaced or augmented by AI. So in order to get insights from about a business event professional using their LinkedIn profile, this AI agent is going to take 5 steps. So the first step is it's going to get input from me, the user, which is enter the LinkedIn URL of the planner. So that's what the user sees. And then you give it a name when you save it. Then the second step is you want to get the actual information. So it takes, this LinkedIn URL, and it's going to get data from LinkedIn and save it as LinkedIn data. Then it's going to get activity from LinkedIn and save it as LinkedIn activity. And then the fourth step, this is the actual AI part. So the rest of it is just, it's an automation, which isn't necessarily, it might be agentic, but it's not doing something on its own. Here, we are using GPT 4.5 to look at all of this data and analyze it. So that is going to be just a prompt. And here you can see, as you are building out each of those segments, what that looks like. So here, this is where it takes all of the information, all of the last 25 posts that this user wrote. It's going to then put it into GPT 4.5. It's going to use ChatGPT with a prompt that I gave it that said, read all of this and let me know essentially everything that I put in the introduction to this agent. And then the final step, the fifth step, is that we want the output in markdown format so that we can actually read and use it. So again, this is one of the steps. This is actually the very first step. So getting text, this is the prompt that the user sees. You can give them examples of the type of text they can enter, and then you name that output because it's going to become an input in a later step. This is what the ChatGPT step looks like. So here it's going to 4.5, and it's just reading this prompt. And the prompt is, I'm providing you with somebody's LinkedIn profile and their posts. Give me a detailed summary of what destinations they like, if it's mentioned, and what a good sales approach might look like. Conclude with one surprising insight about the planner. And then this is, where I have put in my 2 selections. I wanted the profile data, that's one of the outputs from LinkedIn, and the posts, that was the second output from LinkedIn. And then the output from this prompt, that's what it's going to save as the output summary so that it can then deliver that to me in the next screen. And then this is the example of what the output looks like. So it gave me, it was very long. So here we're just seeing the tail end of what this report looked like. If I were to have a meeting with this person, I'd find it really interesting to have all of these insights, and I would be very glad to not spend a lot of time on LinkedIn to actually copy and paste all 25 posts and put it in here. So again, this is an AI agent that is part of a process that it's helping to automate something. In this case, it's automating reading a bunch of LinkedIn posts and then understanding how my destination could sell to this person. And if we wanted to make it even more agentic, if we wanted to add another step in here that we don't have to personally do, again, these were the 4 different kind of categories to building your agent. You can go to the trigger, and then you can set up a trigger for when this happens. So I haven't done this because, again, this is the free version. It's not actually tied into our systems at Brand USA. But there is a world, because you can see, like HubSpot is completely integrated into this system because it's from the co-founder of HubSpot. So if we happened to use HubSpot as our, CRM, you could say, great, every morning, look at my calendar, or yeah, user configured schedule, or I could send an email to this agent saying, here are all of my meetings for today. Or we could say, oh, every time a new contact is added into HubSpot, you know, use this information in order to look up what their LinkedIn profile URL is, and then run this agent. And then you could tell it, like right now it's manual only, but if it were on a daily schedule, I could say every morning at 8 a.m., email me this summary for each one of the meetings that I have today. So that's a way in which this agentic AI workflow actually becomes useful for an organization. And then this is a different type of automation from Google Gemini. So this is an email I actually got from Gemini this morning uh, about Gemini's gems. And so gems are pre-written prompts inside of Gemini. In ChatGPT, those are called custom GPTs. And this particular pre-written gem offers to make you a work brief every morning. So this is, again, we don't use Gemini at Brand USA. So this is connected to my personal Gmail, which is not something I use, obviously not for work, and I don't really use the calendar functionality. So I was curious what it was going to come back with. It's like, okay, great. You're going to get an email every single day at 8 a.m. with this work brief. And these were the only two things that were on my Google Calendar. So here I have a reminder about something for this presentation and something I wanted to remember to do tonight. I didn't even know I had tasks in my Google email, but apparently 5 or 6 years ago, I wanted to remember to buy Claritin, so I hope I got it. And then just a couple of random FYIs that it pulled from my Gmail. So, and then it offers to customize this for me. So this exists in ChatGPT, like this outreach where it pushes information to you. In ChatGPT, it's called tasks. And clearly this came today. I have not started receiving these emails yet, so I'll be curious how the rest of the week goes. But again, this is an example of something that I have now automated with Gemini. And think about how useful this would be if it was, instead of random Google Calendar, it was connected to my Outlook and setting me up every single morning with this full list of everything that we do. And somebody just asked in the chat, what's the main reason we don't use Google Gemini? Part of it is we're not a Google Workspace company, so it didn't make sense from that perspective. Overall, of the three main models, which there's all kinds of AI models out there. There's thousands upon thousands, but the three dominant ones in the United States are going to be OpenAI with ChatGPT, Google with Gemini, and Anthropic with Claude. And when we were doing this back in October, honestly, Gemini was lagging behind, I think, the other labs a little bit in what they were releasing to the public. And it didn't have that utility of being tied into our ecosystem. So I have the personal subscription so that I can keep up on how it works in case it makes enough, leaps ahead that we might want to add it to our mix or swap out one of the other chatbots. But ultimately, for my view, OpenAI keeps pushing the envelope the furthest, the fastest. And so that's, for me, it's just always the best in class model. And then Anthropic, I like how it writes. I think the artifacts feature is really interesting. So ultimately, it just comes down to that. And Copilot, which I don't use, but Microsoft Copilot does have a version of custom GPTs. They're definitely going to have agents at some point, and I imagine that they are going to be pre-building those agents so that you don't have to design something from scratch, because that's the benefit of working with Copilot, is that Microsoft is doing some of the heavy lifting for you. The downfall of working with that system is you have to wait for Microsoft to catch up with the latest advances. So let's talk briefly about how agents are going to evolve and how our work with agents will evolve. So I don't know that this is necessarily something that is taking over all of our jobs next year or anything, but by 2027, our employees, they are going to be in charge of agents that are going to be doing some component of our work for us. So, you can see where a data analyst could supervise AI agents that are processing visitor patterns or spending habits or sentiment analysis, that there's just going to be robots collecting information and doing things for us that then needs to be collected and synthesized, or you have to do something with that information. Uh, so that's going to allow, our impact to be multiplied. Uh, and then employees, we could almost think of them as strategic directors of AI assistants. Now, where this is going to move, I think by 5 years from now, is that these agents won't necessarily be standalone agents. The agents are going to be able to work with each other. And the agents, as you can see here, like the idea of a supervisor agent that has a task and that it will then take that task and disseminate it to other agents that will do individual pieces of the task, bring it back to the supervisor agent who then kind of generates this solution. So if you wanted to think about like how would that work for an actual department at a DMO, uh, if you wanted to think about having community management inside of your DMO, you could have agents that are tracking local sentiment. You could have, and that might involve, just keeping it, you outline what social media networks you want that agent to monitor. Do you want it to be on an app like Nextdoor to see are people complaining about tourists or complaining about, home rentals in their neighborhood? Uh, you could have communication agents that take that information and then draft, emails to go out to stakeholders. You could see data agents that are creating not just an overall economic impact report, but customizing it for subsets of your constituents. Uh, we could have feedback agents that are going out to our membership or to our partners, asking for feedback on our work. There could be resource agents that are matching, what stakeholders need with the programs that DMOs have to offer to those stakeholders. So that a swarm could be, multiple agents in each one of those tasks collecting this information so that we as the humans have better info and data to go from when we are doing the people part of the job. So that is all meant to arm us so that we can have more effective, conversations with those stakeholders. So I don't see this taking the human out of the loop. Is what this is doing is really super empowering the humans to have the best possible information to go and then actually do this work. And it removes the need, ideally for humans to sit searching, on the internet for 6 hours looking for restaurants that might have newly, opened up in your city. So it allows the people to do what people are best at. And I like that vision of the future a lot. Uh, right now, many of these things would involve a manual handoff, but that will become agentic as well, right? We will see steps moving along a chain where it's AI helping to move the steps along. And it will be one of the roles of leaders at DMOs to actually design what set of agents do you need? What set of tasks do you want to accomplish? And what swarms do you want to establish in order to make that happen? And then let's talk just very briefly. This is the reminder that I put in that earlier on my Google tasks for the day. Uh, what do we do when the agent, because I think everything will ultimately come back to personal AI. I think ultimately, whatever version of ChatGPT I have on my phone, assuming it's ChatGPT, that this will become my favorite tool. It'll become the one that knows my voice and my needs and is connected to all of my systems. And sometimes I will want to do something like plan a trip. And let's assume that ChatGPT is fully agentic in the year 2030. And so instead of me using text to communicate with it, it will, be able to go out and do steps on its own. But what when it needs a source of truth in order to give me the best answer? Because we know that hallucinations, that's still a problem with AI agents because they're a feature, they're not a bug of working with AI. So I think that the way we will tell ChatGPT or any of our AI agents in the future how they will know what truth is going to be through something called Model Context Protocol. And so this is a replacement for APIs, I think is the simplest way to explain it. So right now, if I wanted to, in my personal version of ChatGPT, let's say I wanted to book a Broadway ticket. I could, go and ask it to research shows. I could ask it to give me a list of what's playing. But let's say, in about a month, my mom and my sister are coming to town, and I want to see the show that has the best seats, for the best price, on one of 3 nights. And I'm looking at 5 different shows. So that would be, 15 different searches right now because of dynamic pricing. Every single performance is going to have different availability. Every single performance is going to be priced differently. So I could use an API, right? If I were a programmer, I could write an API that could look at each, one of those ticketing platforms and return a result to me. But what MCP does is where the API would connect, something together where it says, okay, hey, look over here, and this is where the ticket price is going to be. Well, AI is smart. So you don't need all of that programming to say, hey, this is the ticket price. So the Model Context Protocol allows you to create a database where in the database you include the instructions for how to use it. So what does that look like? Let's say I had a database of all of the curb cuts on every single sidewalk in New York City, and I'm a wheelchair user. If I'm coming to New York City and I want to plan a route from my hotel to my Broadway show, where there is going to be a effective curb cut for every single sidewalk, every single crosswalk that I need to enter. This database, I could tell my version of ChatGPT, hey, use Model Context Protocol to look at this server of curb cuts and route for me the best path for me to go. And it would be able to do that because it's not hallucinating. It's not making up where there are curb cuts in the curb. It is, you have told it, go look at this database in order to get that information. So the same thing could work for the business event industry. If you have a big database with the capacity for every venue in your destination, which we all have some version of that, right? You could take that and build it as an MCP server so that if somebody's planning a meeting in your town, you don't have to worry about, oh, I hope the underlying data inside of ChatGPT is accurate. Instead, you say, great, this agent will know to go and look at this MCP server for what we consider to be true. And so I think that's going to open up a lot of opportunities for working with AI and with AI agents in the future, because the AI agents are going to be able to determine, it's going to be able to review all of the MCP servers that are available and pick the ones that would be best for each task. And so I see all of this working together and taking a few years to come together, which is why, I don't I don't realistically, somebody could sit down and build a lot of this stuff today, but I don't really see this happening for the next few years as we all continue to learn about AI and what it does. And then to close this out, I'm just going to remind everyone of our AI mantras. So I say to start small to think big because we can't boil the ocean, right, all at once. So even if you are using AI today as fancy email rewriter or Google, it's okay because you are here, you are learning about AI agents, even if you're not going to sit down and make an AI agent tonight. By getting these ideas, you start to understand what is possible. I like people to take a top-down and a bottom-up approach because leadership needs to provide tools and encouragement and permission and guidelines, while the people on the ground are the ones that actually know how can AI do specific parts of my job for me. Uh, and to that end, we had a question in the Q&A about AI guidelines, which we do have, and I can share with you. Uh, Yes, trying to think. Okay, it's for Jessica. Jessica, if you send me an email and my email address will be on the last slide, I will send you a copy of our AI policies. Uh, I also like to tell people lead with wonder because nobody is going to get excited about working with AI if it is only ever about efficiency. Like, I think it is still kind of miraculous that all of this stuff exists. I think one of the great things about AI, agents and AI automation particularly, is that automation is not new. But the ability of someone like me who is not technical to be able to build an automation because AI teaches you how to do it, that is new. So like it's wonderful. So I encourage you just to embrace it. Keep ChatGPT or whatever tool you use open on your second screen and just try doing something different with it every day to see, what is it good at and what is it not good at? Because if you wait for a perfect use case, you're going to be waiting forever. And please share your ideas because nobody is going to create a guide for us. We have to do it ourselves. And it is not cheating when we use AI at work. So please continue playing and exploring with AI. Uh, and we have a second request for the AI policy. And of course, like what I want to do is like search on my computer and find it, but I am sharing my screen, so I'm not going to do that. So Holly, please send me an email and I can send that over to you. We also had a question on the chat about chatbots on DMO websites and what are ways that that the DMOs can mitigate hallucinations and ensure accurate data through the chatbots on our websites. And it mentioned that, yes, many of them have trouble with dates. Like, what can I do this weekend? And it returns activities from last year. So it's hard because hallucinations are a feature and not a bug. So a lot of how does your website chatbot work is related to how is it structured in terms of, is it using RAG, retrieval augmented generation, in order to like go to your own source information and pull back out data that you need. Uh, yeah, gosh, it's honestly, I think the best way to mitigate the hallucinations is to make sure that you are working with a really responsible and trusted supplier. And if you'd like to send me an email, I can give you a list of suppliers that are working in that space. So we're personally at Brand USA. We're partnering with a company called Mindtrip for the itinerary planner that is on our campaign site at americathebeautiful.com. Uh, but it's like it's always going to be a little bit of an issue. Like ongoing testing, I think, is very important for those DMO websites. I feel like the things to do this weekend calendar, that is almost like a perfect use case for something like model context protocol, where your AI tool just knows to look in that specific spot for this specific set of facts. All right, so if you would like to download today's webinar, this is the QR code again to be able to do so. We'll also be sharing a recording after the fact. So you will get this as a recording and you will be able to see the actual slides by using this QR code. Our next Agents of Change webinar is going to be on September 15th at 1 p.m. And I'm going to talk about custom GPTs. So single-use custom agents. This would be gems inside of Gemini, ways that you can use that to like create departmental workflows and get AI out of just one person using AI and into teams of people using AI. So with that, I'm going to stop sharing and I'm going to just kind of keep looking through the answers in the Q&A. So please keep asking questions if you have any. All right. How do I recommend smaller boutique AI suppliers break through in the chatbot industry? I think there's a number of great conferences where you can meet folks. I would recommend certainly Esto is coming right up. Hello to everybody that we'll be seeing at Esto. Esto from US Travel is actually offering an AI playground this year where different chatbot vendors and myself will be kind of staffing a Q&A area and showing how different tools work while we're at Esto in between sessions. So I'm looking forward to that. I think that'll be really fun. Do we have other questions about AI agents or anything otherwise? All right. I want to thank everybody so much for your time today. I look forward to seeing you later in September. And thank you so much. I very much appreciate it.